Hey, what's up, dog owners out there in YouTube land? Hey, before you get started with this video, if you're watching this on YouTube, down in the comment section below, there's a link where you can sign up for a free 10-part video training series that we're doing about how to solve some of the biggest issues that you're dealing with. I'm talking aggression, leash pulling, jumping on people, what to do when your dog freaks out because somebody rings the doorbell. You know, all the big stuff, the chewing, the digging, all sorts of stuff like that. We're gonna teach you how to deal with that. So go sign up for that free course down there. In the meantime, watch this video because I'm gonna dispel some myths about dog training, and we're gonna be talking about, should you use discipline? Should you not use discipline? Should you just use treats and balanced dog training? And we're gonna be talking about things like purely positive dog training and correction-based dog training and treats and clickers and shock collars and stuff like that. So keep watching. All right, guys, I wanna talk about styles of training, because lots of folks out there think you must train this way, you must train that way. There are no musts, but there are big pluses and minuses to different ways of training. So what I mean by that is I pretty much want to talk about the difference between balanced training versus pure positive training. Now, pure positive training is the type of stuff that you might find at like a big box pet store, or sometimes just some like community group classes or things like that. And I'm talking, of course, about, you know, just using treats, no corrections, nothing like that. Now, using positive training methods is important. But in training, there's essentially two components of every single training thing that you want to teach your dog, whether it's just great obedience or, you know, to get rid of behavior problems. There's two components. The dog has to understand the concept, and he has to do it really well with distractions. And so, the understanding the concept, you can do that with pure positive, meaning if I want my dog to understand how to sit, I can take some treats and get him to sit, get him to lie down, get him to come. And in fact, a lot of you have probably already done that by the time you're watching this video. Because by the time a lot of folks come to us and they're interested in our training, it's because they've done some pure positive and they recognize there's a very low ceiling. And what I mean by that is they get to where the dog understands everything, but he's not gonna do it with distractions, because he's gonna say, well, you know, if I'm the dog, well, I like the treat, but I'd really like to chase the cat into the street far more than I want your treat, or chase the tennis ball into the street far more than I want the treat that you're holding. Or, you know, I like you and I like treats, but there's a person and I want to go like pull and go say hi to them, you know, on our walk. Or even worse than that, there's a dog or a person and I'm the dog, I'm feeling aggressive and I want to go lunge and bark at them. So I don't really care about your treat or anything like that. Now, those that do the pure positive training are going to say things like, well, you just need to work a little bit farther away and gradually you'll get closer. But in reality, what often happens is it takes months and months and months to get even just a little bit closer so that your dog's not pulling, or a little bit closer without your dog being aggressive. It's way, you know, too difficult on the dog. The dog has to put up with way too much stress and trying to work through all of these distractions. And it's way too difficult on the owners. So in theory, it's nice to think about like, oh, let's get our dogs to be super obedient while, you know, get our dogs to be really obedient with no corrections and everything's just love and kisses and things like that. It's a nice concept, but in the real world, it just doesn't really pan out. And so now the flip side of that is we don't have to be harsh with our dogs at all. We don't need to be painful. We don't need to hurt them. We don't need to, corrections don't need to be harsh in order to be effective. And so that's where, and I'm going to show you how these work here in a second. We'll zoom in really close here in a second. But the tools that we use for training to actually give corrections, they might look a little bit harsh, but used properly, we can use very low levels. And it's not about pain, it's about communication. So I often will ask people, are you willing to maybe like pull on the dog to get him to come, for example? I mean, not even harshly, but just kind of pull on him. If the answer is yes, then using an e-collar would be something you'd be totally fine with, because it's such a light level. It's the equivalent of like maybe just a little bit of a pull on a leash. It's not about pain, it's not about shock, it's not about this jolting sensation. It's just about, you know, getting the dog's attention and communicating a concept. And so the bottom line is, if you do pure positive training, that's fine up until a point, but if you're looking for training that works in the real world, a more balanced approach to where you're using a lot of positive reinforcement and you're balancing that with proper correction that's humane, is really what's going to help you get to your goals. So I'm going to show you exactly what I'm talking about with these. We're going to zoom in nice and close, and I'm going to show you how these ugly training collars work. So give me a second here and I'll show you how that. Hey guys, just want to do a quick breakaway because of how we train dog owners all over the world, and it doesn't seem to matter where people are. We train people through Skype training, so we get on private training sessions with people all over the world. I've done them now in, I believe, every continent, done Skype training sessions. So it doesn't matter where people are with their dogs. They want to live with their dogs in their community. They want to go hiking off the leash. They want to go, they want to be around the city and have the dog listen to them. So what I'm getting at is when you're using just treats and just positive reinforcement, which positive reinforcement is fantastic, you need to use it, but when you're just using it and no correction, you're going to run into problems because so many things are more important than that, than that treat that's in your hand. And so many dogs get the picture pretty quick, like, oh yeah, you don't even have the treat in your hand. I'm not doing that. So anyways, just wanted to do a quick breakaway because I was reminded of how many people that we speak with that want real world results and realize that just positive reinforcement isn't the key to doing that you've got to find some balance. All right, so let me kind of show you here. I always kind of joke that this looks like some sort of dungeon tool, but used properly, the reason this is so effective is because of its design. This is called a pinch collar, not because it pinches, because it doesn't. You see how you might not be able to see, but you see how the tines are wider than the eyelets? You got to pinch it to get it together. But the reason this is so effective is, think about like a flat leash, a flat collar. And by a flat collar, I mean just the type of collar that any dog wears, with tags on it and stuff. Like if you're trying to give a little bit of a correction because your dog's pulling at the leash or acting aggressive or whatever the case might be, and you give a tug, any tug you give is lessened because it travels the whole length of the dog's neck, which means if you want the dog to feel it, you got to use a lot of strength. And number one, I don't want to do that. Number two, most of our clients, they're not going to be yanking their dogs around like crazy. And number three, it's not very effective. You have to use way too much power to get your dog to listen, and it's not super effective. Same thing with like a body harness. You've got a body harness on your dog. Any tug you give is lessened because it's absorbed by the entire body. And so the value of a collar like this is I can use very little correction. And you're going to see during this 10-day course how we use very little correction to teach a recall, to teach the dog how to stay, to teach him to go to a bed and to do all of these wonderful things. We're going to teach exactly how to do that using very little correction. And so that's why I say my personal belief is that using these tools is actually the most humane way to the most humane way to train a dog. Because training a dog, correction is a critical component. You've got to correct, but you've got to do it in a way that there's leverage. You're not using like a whole bunch of strength versus strength. So you see, this is not like a painful thing at all. I challenge you to go to the pet store and try it and kind of say, oh yeah, because every time I do this with our clients, they're like, oh really, that's it? They were expecting stab, they were expecting some, really powerful thing, and it's really not like that. So it's just very kind of light pressure, it's actually far more humane than a lot of different collars. Now the e-collar that we're using, same thing. It looks nasty. In fact, I'm going to turn it on here. So I'll give you an example here. The level that we're using for this guy to teach, well, you might not even be able to see him, but the guy that you're going to see in this 10-part series, the level that we're using for him is a level 8 on this. It goes up to 100. So 8 is almost nothing comparatively. You want to make sure, if you're going to do this training, that you need to get a good brand of collar. We use the Mini Educator by eCollar Technologies. There's a few other good brands. If you've got something from Amazon that was $40, $60, $80, $100, it's trash. I can tell you just straight out, it's trash. They don't work. The lowest levels are too high for almost all dogs. And so with this one, level 8, I could hit it all day long. I will never feel it. That's the level we're using for him. We know we're on the right level when he's just kind of huh, what's that? It's not painful. It's just an interesting sensation from nowhere. Like you couldn't feel level 8 unless maybe you put it like, like the most sensitive skin that you have, your inner thigh or something like that, you could maybe feel it. But it's such a low level, it's not about pain. And so that's why I wanted to start out our training series here. As you're getting into things, if you're the type of person, frankly, that says, look, I don't care about the reason, I don't care about the science behind it, I don't care, I just don't want to use corrections, this 10-part series isn't going to be for you. But for folks that are, more open-minded and they're understanding, okay, I just want to do what's best for my dog, understand that proper corrections are best for your dog. Now, also understand dogs are different creatures than our kids. Now, how you parent is none of my business. Me personally, I don't spank my kids. I don't use any sort of physical correction with my kids because there's different types of correction I can use. I can take away privileges. I can have them go to their room. I can sit down and talk with them and help them understand what their behavior means to the rest of the family. And kids can understand that. Dogs can't. You send your dog to his room, he doesn't understand why he's being punished. He has no clue. You sit down and talk to him. A lot of our clients have tried that one. You might have already. It doesn't work. You can't sit down and talk to the dog and get him to understand this. Yelling at him doesn't work. So anyways, correction is important. But correction for dogs are such physical creatures that we want to communicate with them on levels that they understand. And so if I'm trying to communicate with them with treats and loves and kisses, that's totally fine when I'm trying to teach a concept. But I'm trying to get the dog to do that concept with distraction or with, when there's real stakes on the line, treats and kisses and hugs aren't going to do it. So I want to be able to use correction that's humane and fair. And that's why these things, while they might look nasty, allow us to use very light levels of correction that get us very big results. Off-leash obedience, solving behavior problems, getting rid of aggression, all of these things, it's important to use a balanced style of training. So as you're going through this series, watch how we use this and you'll see that this is a very humane way to do it. The dogs stay happy, and that's what it's about. It's about teaching dogs great concepts, keeping them happy. So if you need help, feel free to respond to us here, and we'll tell you which brands are good. But yeah, these types of tools are super helpful for you. All right, folks. If you haven't already, go down to the description section. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to get the entire 10-day training course here. It's free, no cost to you, and it's going to share with you a ton of information on how to get your dog completely trained. So go down and do that. Hopefully this video has helped you understand why using just treats and just positive reinforcement is not the way to go. Not going to get you to your goals. But there's a humane way to use balanced training, so let's get on it.